I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, August the 1st already, brought to you in part by Legacy Beef Cooperative. Protect your cattle asset by putting down a $25 deposit on a unit which could insulate yourself from black swans and board drops. Those cattle sell based off the box beef cutout values. Buy a space for the cost of insuring 2 head of fat cattle. Check out this video at the end of this feeder flash episode to learn more about it with the interview that I did. Also, for more information online, go to legacybeefcoop.com. There's going to be down days, and Wednesday was a down day on the board on the live cattle. Feeder cattle were up just a little, but you can't get excited about that, and I think people get too excited about the board being down a little bit. I mean, when the board goes down, especially whenever you've got all these funds and speculators that are just waiting and just can't wait for this thing to break, when the board's down a little bit and it doesn't go down 200 points, I think that's a small victory there, especially when you have these algorithms that can take over anytime you see something. And of course, they've got them dialed in where they're really wanting it to go down so they can ride her down. But you know, our cattle are selling pretty well. We didn't have any really direct trade to speak of middle of the week here. And you guys that are selling fat cattle in a negotiated way, I appreciate you guys. I give you credit for being market makers and not market takers. But the market, the cash market, the real market, the only market that really matters, it's not lower until you start selling your cattle lower. So don't worry so much about the board, especially on a moderate down day on your live cattle like we saw on Wednesday. But you know, our fundamentals, of course, that's what I'm all about, is fundamentals. They have not slipped a bit. You guys might be thinking, well, look at this, slaughter is down. Our fed cattle slaughter is actually higher for the year, even though our total cattle slaughter has been down because of the shortage of cows and bulls and the big demand on cows and bulls and the price that's gone up so much, and they've just cut back a lot on slaughtering of cows and bulls. But actually our slaughter is higher. Our beef production is also higher at a smaller total slaughter rate because these carcasses are so big. Of course, the packers have invited producers to make the cattle bigger, which is getting them through their problem here, which is tight supplies, because it's all about tonnage. But you know, our fundamentals are still really good. Don't look at that slaughter, which normally we'd look at slaughter and if it was down significantly, but just keep in mind, as far as commercial steers and heifers, that is not the truth there. And as good as this market is, you're often going to see some really high prices, and whenever Superior has a big video, you're going to see some stick out deals. They're currently in the middle of their video royale in Winnemucca, Nevada, and that's one of the stick out sales of the year for Superior. And there's been some big quotes that have drawn some attention. One that happened on Wednesday, and a lot of you might have thought that's the one I was talking about, is where they had some 2-weight steers bring over $5 a pound. Now, I'll grant you that's a hell of a price, but you know, it hadn't been that long ago we've been talking about some 1-weight cattle, or some cattle weighing in the 100s, bringing $10 a pound, and baby calves bringing you know, $1,000 a head. That happens out there. So the $5 a pound on some 2-weight cattle doesn't surprise me as much as this quote that I'm fixing to give you. It was on the video royale sale in Winnemucca, Nevada on Wednesday. It was the Wilkinson cattle from McDermott, Nevada. Now they had every program that you can do. Every single box was checked on bells and whistles, from the GAP to the NHTC to the Beef Care, multi-man, everything. I mean, they didn't talk mean to them. Those cattle had never seen a rattle paddle, let alone a hot shot. I mean, just everything has been sweet for them their whole life. In fact, they're not even weaned at delivery in October. These are steer calves. Now it's going to be a big load of them, a heavy load of them, 70 of them. Now, of course, they're all Black Angus, and they got the right genetics and everything, but 70 Black Angus ball and calves to weigh 870 pounds in October. They're going to sort them from their mothers at delivery, and I bet those mothers will be glad to see them go. But 870 pound ball and calves for October delivery with all the bells and whistles bring 268. Wow. Now, just because they have all the bells and whistles doesn't mean that they're going to straighten up right away. We already know that they've never had a bad day their whole lives. I mean, it's just been a fantastic short year here for them. But my goodness, I mean, you talk about giving a price like that, you're awful optimistic there. And there's still mostly all optimism in this cattle market right now. Press release that come out on Wednesday that I want to tell you about is from the U.S. Cattlemen's Association, who I align myself with. They came out after their summer conference that they had up in Billings, Montana there a week or so ago, and they are in support of Harriet Hageman's resolution to block the mandatory EID that Secretary Vilsack just sat down and put a pin to and said that everybody's going to have to put mandatory EID tags in all their breeding stock. And they gave several reasons that they are against it. One was we already have a robust system that everybody's used to using, and it's been working just fine. Another one is the cost. What's the cost of this? You love it when somebody mandates that you have to do something, but they're not offering to help pay for it, and they're not offering to help you do it. So that would be interesting if you had some people from DC come out there to help you round up all those cows and make sure that they had their EID tags in. But also they said it would bring about unnecessary delays whenever you're having to wand those cattle. And just, anytime you're having to gather those cattle up, you got shrink, you got the possibility of one of them getting hurt or crippled, something like that, when it's really not necessary to do. But the main reason, and the one that reason I'm mostly or totally against it, and it's the biggest reason, is the misuse of information. Who is going to hold this information? Who is going to collect this information? Will anybody be out there droning your cattle and collecting that information without your approval? And why are they doing it? We've already seen in Europe that they're charging those people carbon credits for their cows. In one country over there in Europe, they were saying that they needed to slaughter a huge amount of cows there, to save the planet. I mean, just crazy stuff like that. And then another reason that wasn't listed on the press release from U.S. Cattlemen's Association, the reason that I'm against it also is because if we do the breeding stock, it's only a matter of time before they're going to ask us to do all classes, which is undoable. It can't be done. So, don't ask a purebred guy that's been given a ranch with top-notch facilities on the home place that's already been to EID, using EIDs for years, if he's in support of it. Of course he's going to be in support of it. He doesn't have to do anything. Ask a retired guy that's got 10 different lease places of commercial cows. He trades cows in the sale barn. He'll pick up some young ones and he'll drop a few old ones once in a while, moving cattle in and out. Talk to a guy that grazes in vast dry areas, and he gathers his cattle by helicopter, and he's really not sure how many are out there because he doesn't see them all every year. Ask somebody like that what they think about this EID deal. But now you got U.S. Cattlemen's Association that is in support of Harriet Hageman's resolution to block mandatory EID. You've got RCAF that is in totally support of Harriet Hageman's resolution there. So who's left? Of course, NCBA, it seems like they're just always on the side to make it harder for small producers. And I could venture to say that it's at least 80 and probably 90% of your small cow-calf producers that are against this, that are against mandatory EID, and they are for Harriet Hageman's bill. And if you guys haven't gotten excited about getting in support of that and telling your lawmakers and your representatives that you are in support of Harriet Hageman's resolution, please do that. I tell you what, guys, we need to put this thing to bed right now, and then we won't have to worry about it down the road. But going to have some big sales coming up here later this week. Talked to Tylen Layton with Coffeyville Stockyards in Kansas, and then also in Oklahoma. He's got Northtown Coffeyville and Southtown Coffeyville facilities both. And he said, oh, we threw together a video sale here on short notice. Well, when they throw a video sale together, it means they're expecting 10,000 head. It's going to be on DVAuction. It's going to be this evening. It's going to be today, here on Thursday, the 1st. They're going to have dinner it's all going to be at the North Barn. They're going to have dinner at 5:30. They're going to furnish you dinner at 6 o'clock. They're going to have the sale. And like I said, they're expecting 10,000 head. They had 8,500 already with some other deals that were looking like they were going to come in. So they're thinking they're going to have closer to 10,000, mostly all grass yearlings. And a lot of them are going to be northern quality cattle. And one in particular lot's got 480 head of northern quality cattle. 980 pounds are sitting in Colorado for September delivery. Now, you guys, you know, a lot of you are in the market for something like that, but you can check them out if you can't make it to Northtown Coffeyville, to the sale barn there for that evening video sale. Get on to DVAuction.com. They've got good internet there, and make sure you're approved to bid and get on that sale and check them out. Let's talk about your board for middle of the week Wednesday. August live cattle down 57 cents at 187.12. October was down 77 at 186.67. Your back months were all down from 17 cents to 62 cents, but that's not terrible, guys. August feeder cattle were up 27 cents at 257 and a quarter. September was up 15 at 257.10. Your back months down 95 cents to up 27 cents, so a mixed bag on your out fronts there on your feeder cattle futures. December corn down a half cent a bushel at 3.99 and a quarter. November beans down 2 cents at 2.20 and a half, or 10.20 and a half. Hard red winter wheat for September down a half cent a bushel at 5.48 and a half. Like I mentioned earlier, your fat cattle trade has not developed on a direct basis in your 5-area feeding region as of yet. We've seen a little bit of hodgepodge sales. Some guys are getting nervous, worried about the board earlier in the week. And then on Wednesday, we did see 200 head sell in Iowa at 196, but that is nothing when they typically sell about 30,000 there. So don't worry about them. Nebraska, Kansas, and Texas did not have any sales reported at all on Wednesday. Did have a fat cattle auction. Oh, where can we find out what something's worth? Well, put them in an auction barn, run them in front of some buyers, and let's find out what they're worth. Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota, DV auction broadcaster there. They had about 640 head of slaughter cattle for their auction, including some cows there, but the market was good on their fat cattle. It was good, not a huge run, but a good sale there. The conventional cattle sold $2 to $4 higher, with spots as much as $6 higher. Now check out these prices in an auction setting in Worthing, South Dakota. Conventional fat steers and heifers bring 201 and a quarter to 205. They had a few program cattle there, but there was not a premium evident for them. But that's an awful good price with the bulk of your good cattle bringing in the $2 range there over it. But box beef cutout values were kind of mixed. Choice cuts were up 29 cents at 314.77. Selects down 122 at $300.16. Talk about your slaughter. Up through the middle of the week, through the first 3 days of the week, 360,000 estimated for harvest. That's exactly the same at this time a week ago, and just 9,000 less than the same time a year ago. So not too bad on our slaughter levels this week. Talk about what else is going on Make your crossbreeding count. Consider Gelbvieh and Gelbvieh balancers in your crossbreeding, guys. They had carcass data from a 3,600 head test, and the Gelbvieh and balancer cattle resulted in 88% choice and prime out of the whole 3,600 head, and 91% of them having yield grades 1, 2, and 3. For more information, go to gelbvieh.org. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction late in the day on Wednesday. Based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states, just like you're seeing the index. 257.74. That was down $1.01 compared to late Tuesday there after the Tuesday sales, and this is after all the Wednesday sales. Latest CME cash feeder cattle index 258.69. Talk about your big sales on Wednesday. El Reno, Oklahoma, OKC West, 5,800 head for their Tuesday calf sale and Wednesday feeder sale. Feeder steers sold really well, steady to $3 higher. Feeder heifers were not well tested, didn't have any nice strings of feeder heifers there like they typically do. The calves on Tuesday were $4 to $8 lower. But a really impressive quote they had out of El Reno there on Wednesday was 150 steers weighed 962 and bring 248. Going to give you several individual quotes from all around the country, and cattle are selling really well everywhere, guys. How about Tri-County Stockyards in Motley, Minnesota? They sell 57 steers weighed 773 at 273.75. Pretty impressive anywhere, especially up there in the upper Midwest, guys. How about Bluegrass Stockyards in Albany, Kentucky? Now, that's one of the Bluegrass locations, but it's not one of the bigger ones, but they can sell them well there too. Through the Ring in Albany, Kentucky, they sell 68 steers, weigh 788 and bring 270. How about South Central Missouri? Wright County Livestock, Mountain Grove, Missouri, sells 65 steers, weigh 821 pounds at 259. I mean, just everywhere they're selling well. Even in downtown Green Forest, Arkansas, at North Arkansas Livestock, they sell 129 steers in one whack. They weigh 801 pounds and bring 260 through the Ring in Arkansas, guys. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote from the day, come out of the Blue Stem country there. Harrington, Kansas, at the Harrington Livestock Commission, they sell 90 steers, weighed 829 and bring 272. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday. I'm Corbett Wall with this feeder flash feature. I'm here with Chad Tinninger from Legacy Beef Co-op and Cattlemen's Heritage. And we're going to give you some information about getting in on the ground floor of a co-op that's going to own part of Cattlemen's Heritage, a new privately owned packing plant. Hopefully will give you an opportunity to stay profitable and stay in the cattle feeding business and compete with the big four packers. How you doing today, Chad?
Good, Corbett. Glad to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about this new and exciting venture that you've got going?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we started out, Legacy Co-op is a outshoot of Cattlemen's Heritage Beef Company, the new processing plant outside of Council Bluffs. That'll be 525,000 head a year. We'll be processing right outside of Council Bluffs off of the I-29 corridor over there. We got about 132 acres. We've cleared the land. We're ready to break ground next spring. And Legacy Co-op will be the supply of the cattle that will feed that plant with the producer involvement.
Okay, so all the cattle that come into that plant will be through Legacy Co-op.
That is the goal, yes. We want to make sure that the producer has a say in how the plant's run, the say in how the market works. All these things that we as producers, when I put my producer cap on, I want to get the best value for my cattle. Well, I don't think there's any way I can ever get the best value for my cattle if I don't participate in the processing end of it, because obviously in the last decade we've seen very clearly that the only way we're ever going to get what we think we deserve is to actually participate in the ownership.
Okay, so you say these co-op members are going to have a say in what goes on at the plant. How's that going to work?
So how we've set up the co-op is it's buying shares. One share is one delivery obligation a year. So there's 525,000 shares up for sale. Once you deliver your cattle, what you're going to gain in the beginning is you're going to get access to a grid. Everybody knows how grid works, premiums and discounts. But our grid's going to be tied to the box beef cutout. We are not going to tie it to the CME. We fundamentally believe that the CME does not represent the cattle fundamentals in the country on a day-to-day basis. I think we could all agree to that. There's no traders in the pits anymore. There's no human contact. It's computer algorithms trading on headlines, and we're at the mercy of it. So beginning, the fundamental belief is let's tie it to the box beef cutout. At least then we know we got a fair shake. You also, if you're a member of the co-op, you get a $25 bonus every time you deliver. So automatically it's $25 more than you would have got anywhere else. And then at the end of the day, for buying into the co-op, that co-op is going to have roughly, give or take, 20% ownership in Cattlemen's Heritage Beef Company. So true ownership in the plant, in the company, in the brand, whatever we can create out of this, you have ownership in and get a margin in those profits.
So these unit shares, you assume they're going to gain in value as time goes on.
Every other company that we've looked at like this in the pork industry, there's more of these companies with producer involvement. All those shares just increase in value. You can sell them, you can, your kids can inherit them, pass it down, but ultimately you have a say in how the system works that you're participating in.
So you're offering producers an opportunity to get in on the ground floor.
Yeah, I've been in this business my whole life, and we as producers, my whole life we've been saying, we don't have any say in how we sell our product, what comes from it, we're at the mercy of everybody. This is an opportunity to be in the ground floor at the cheapest you're going to get in to actually take ownership in a company that you'll participate in. We've set it up. The Cattlemen's Heritage will have its own board. The co-op will have its own board. They will work together hand in hand in an advisory board. Each board will have two members of the other. So we have true ownership in the game. So when we talk about how are we going to sell cattle or how's the grid going to work exactly, you're going to have a seat at the table with us deciding those very things.
So the plan itself, you're expecting to pretty much run on a consistent margin then, and then the extra money is going to be premiums for the producer?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple system. You tie a grid to a set point. We're going to tie it to the box beef cutout. Then you have to plant production. You can't break the plant, right? It costs X amount to run. You minus that out, and then you start on quality of cattle. You're still going to be paid for quality cattle on a premium discount basis. That would be very similar to how grid works today. One thing we are looking at pretty closely that we might change, especially when you get discounts on 4s and 5s. Right. In today's world, in reality, there's not really much of a discount on a 4. And what's coming up that a lot of people probably don't realize, but 45Z, it's a huge tax credit that's coming on the tax code for anything biofuels. That's what all the ethanol industry is doing. That's what they're talking about. That's why they're paying you. Well, our fats and tallows in the cattle are worth gold right now going to the biodiesel. And we're not getting a part of that. And there's going to be yet another revenue stream that we won't see. So, when you start adding up all the value adds that we as producers do, that we don't participate in, at a certain point in time, all of us producers are just saying, I'm doing the most I will do to create value that I don't get to participate in.
So we talked about the cattle. What kind of cattle are you looking for?
We're just really looking for northern western genetics, right? That's going to be the cattle. The kind of cattle we feed where we are. If you put a pin in Council Bluffs, that's where the plant will be. You go 300 miles in any direction, that's a lot of high quality cattle. And so we're not going to limit it to just black hided or anything like that. It'll be just all quality cattle because the system's still set up. You deliver quality, you'll make more money.
Okay, so no particular program. Yeah. It's just where you're at on the globe, that's the kind of cattle you want.
That's exactly
Iowa
right.
Type cattle.
Yeah, and the system will work that if somebody thinks they're going to deliver really bad cattle, the negatives will still be there. Yeah. So it doesn't work. It still functions the same. And within that, over time, again, will there be programs that maybe develop like anything does? There could be. If there's more value at the end, of course, why wouldn't we bring it back into the plant? And then again, the co-op will own 20% of the plant, so it's a true dividend at the end of the year.
So are you looking at Cattlemen's Heritage having a retail label?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the end goal is to create a brand. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the last 3 years. We're 3 years into due diligence of this plant. That's why we're so confident in where we are today. What we've discovered is the cattle industry has done the worst job ever of telling its story of its greatest asset, and that's the farmers and ranchers and producers. We have all these amazing men and women working every day in this industry, We don't tell their story.
Right.
You know, so we're going to tell the story. Our marketing is going to be, you know, look at these family farmers, look at the ranchers, look at what they do every day. When they don't do a good job, they lose farms. They lose their livelihood. So you better believe if anything in the world of doing the best quality for what you're putting on your kitchen table, it comes out of our farmers and ranchers.
How are you going to compete with the big four?
So there's a couple ways. We have done 3 years of due diligence to figure out why plants don't work when they don't work. What causes a failure, right? Undercapitalized, we have the capital. Bad location, that I cannot overstate having a bad location. We're outside of Council Bluffs. There's 1 million people right outside that door. So we have plenty of work. The other thing we look at is, how do you compete? That's the question, right? How do you compete? Well, the co-op will be a supply of cattle. That's a bunch of producers that have signed up to deliver cattle because they want to share in the upside profits. So on the front side, you can't outbid the cattle. Those cattle are already committed. They're coming in, and they're committed because they're going to get rewarded better. Mm-hmm. So we know we'll have the cattle supply coming into the plant. Then selling the beef, what we found over the last 3 years is, as frustrated as we get as producers that we can only really sell to a handful of companies, on the retail side, there's a lot of frustration on that end too, that they only get to buy from a couple of companies. So we've been contacted by over 80 companies to buy beef today.
But at this point, you haven't gone into partnership with any prospective customers.
We haven't yet, but we're finalizing some of that. We will have a major partner on offer.
I think you need to.
And we will. We're working through that. So what we wanted to make sure is, A, do we have the capital to build? Can we build the right plant, a highly efficient plant? Are we in the right location? Once we cleared all those hurdles, that's a big part of what a retailer, an end user wants to know too.
Sure.
You guys have your ducks in a row, so when we're ready to buy meat. So before we break ground, we'll have a major partner signed up to buy the product. Another way that we've done that we feel is really important is, these old plants, they're old, they're tired, they're inefficient. They started by, you know, processing 2,000 head a day, they're doing 5,000 head a day.
Right.
And, you know, there's plants in this country that, you know, if you built them today, might have 2 forklifts and they got 36 running around that plant, things like that. The way we've designed it with new technology, proven technology, our technology came out of Europe, New Zealand, and Australia. And the reason we're doing that is they hit their labor issues 20 years before we did. So in a world where labor's tight, especially in this industry, you got to be as efficient as you can. We will process 2,000 head a day. A typical plant takes 1,200 employees to do that. We'll have 800.
Wow.
400 less employees. That translates to $25 million a year in savings to the plant, which transfers $50 a head cheaper production cost. So our plant will operate at a cheaper per head production cost than any plant in the system. And that's where you get the margin. So when you start thinking about how they're going to squeeze you out, well, they'd have to start losing $100 a head where we start breaking even. Mm-hmm. And that's an important part of this that we looked at. Again, it's not that complicated to say, I'm going to go build a plant and then just go throw one up somewhere. What's complicated is to be successful.
Right. And I assume you've got your team pretty well set, because you've got to have people that have experience in this kind of stuff, because it's a tough business.
Yeah, we get asked that a lot, and that's a really important question. And I make sure everybody knows, today, I'm the head of the company. I will not be running a plant. That is not my expertise. I've never claimed to be that guy. But what we will do is, the beauty of what's happening in the system is, because there's just a few companies that really have the top guys out there, mm-hmm. A lot of people retire 56 to 60 out of that world, and there's a lot of people, they're not even close to done. Right. There is so much talent in this space that's there to available. We've identified it. We've hired advisors from day one. So I have an advisor that his entire job is just to identify that talent and make sure that when we open our doors, we have the right talent in place. Because there's another way. If you want to fail, just don't put the team together. You know, try and save money on your management team. That's a great way to fail.
So, you know, we're looking for some new co-op members. And how much risk do you think there is involved in this?
What we've done is we went 2.5 years and we talked to producers and got all their point of views and heard every comment we could talk about. And at the end of the day, we developed this program we're in today. And this is the final program we're going out. So what it is, there's various stages of the co-op membership. You are rewarded to get in early. The first round, there's 5 rounds. The first round is $125 a unit. It goes up $25 every round. It's split pretty evenly through the rounds. So That's not a huge investment in the cattle world today.
No, that's especially the prices we're at now.
The way it is today. How it works is right now it's $25 down. So if you want to buy a unit today, it's $25 down.
Okay.
That holds your spot. Then we're going to come out in end of the year, right at the end of the year with the final, here's your final agreement, sign up. If you decide at that point in time, you know what, something's changed, I don't want in on this, we'll refund $15. We got to keep 10 because we spent 10 to put the system together. So all you're really putting at risk today is 10 bucks. 10 bucks a unit. And if you don't like it at the end, your 15 comes home. If you do like it at the end, before we break ground, roughly 30 days before we break ground, the balance of it will be owed. We made it as simple as we could. To be honest, when we first started this, I was hoping to have the producers own 60, 70% of this. Mm-hmm. We found there's not a lot of appetite for that because then you're talking $500, $600, $700 a unit. Mm-hmm. I understand that. That's a lot of money.
Well, it sounds to me like you're not really looking at this co-op to give the bulk of your capital to build this plant.
Absolutely not.
You're ready to build the plant. You're just giving folks opportunity to get into the supply of the cattle.
The plant's going to get built no matter what, because what we've done in 2.5 years is we've found the debt, we found the equity, we're working on all these pieces of the pie. We've got the MPAP award from the USDA, which is the largest, the $25 million you can get from that to build more packing industry, right? So we've been working on all these pieces. At the end of the day, the $100 million, roughly, if you sell 520,000 units, that's come from producers, but that's a $500 million plant. So that's where you get your 20% ownership, give or take. It's a true equity play. Mm-hmm. And for us, that's the passion of it. The producers need to get involved so we have the final say in the outcome also. Anybody that's in the cattle industry should be in this. And I tell bankers, I'm talking to a lot of bankers, there's not a cattle feeder that I know that shouldn't take this opportunity. When you think about what it costs, if you return $25 a head just on, once a year, it gets one space, but that's 5 years, your initial investment's back just off of that, and then you've risked nothing.
Right.
It's a low risk maneuver that opens up a top end. So we did a lot of data mining to find out how the math works. In the last decade, if you just take an average of how the industry has worked in the past, box beef versus what an average would be is about 61.3% of the box beef cutout is where the industry has averaged in the past. In fact, from 04 to 13, that was exactly what it averaged, 61.3. If you take that same number, extend it to today for the last 10 years, you'll find between what we sold our cattle for and what the packer had at 61.3, there's $206 on every animal of a margin that we didn't participate in. So I've heard a big pushback I've had is, well, if you're going to give the producer all the money, the pack goes broke. Well, I'm here to tell you, the numbers don't lie. You can do the data mining yourself and figure it out. There's $206 on every head we sold in the last decade on average that we didn't participate in that margin. I'm not saying it's all ours as producers. I'm just saying there's a buffer there that certainly there's a middle ground we should all partake in.
Right.
We've been told our whole lives, you do it our way or you don't get paid at all. Now we're sitting here saying, if you do it, if we create more value, we're going to pay you for it.
Well, Chad, thanks for all the information here about Legacy Beef Co-op and Cattlemen's Heritage. If folks are interested in making an investment or finding out more about this, where should they go?
Best place to go would be go to legacybeefcoop.com or cattlemensheritage.com. Either one will give you a link to go here to get the information.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all the information today and enjoyed the visit.
Thank you.